Good morning, class. Today we're going to learn how to make chocolate chip cookies. We're going to use the Toll House recipe. That's the recipe that I have put on the classroom, and it's also on the back of Nestle Toll House. If you don't want to use the Toll House chocolate chips, you can also find it on the internet. Just look up Toll House cookies and you'll find it. To make chocolate chip cookies, we're going to use a beater to mix in the dough together. If we added in the chocolate chips too early, what would happen is they would melt with the friction of the beater, and we would have a glob of chocolate chips. They wouldn't stay together. So we need the chocolate chips in last. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix in our dry ingredients in a small bowl, and then we're going to set it aside. And a 1/4 cup flour, so that would be 2 1 cups and 1/4 cup. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my flour, and I'm going to put it in my bowl. So I have my flour in the bowl. Get the salt and baking soda. So I need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And 1 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to need a spoon because I'm going to need to combine the dry ingredients. Okay, so we're going to set this aside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cream the butter, mix the butter in with the sugars, the brown sugar and the granular sugar, and we're going to cream the butter in with them with a mixer. So the recipe calls for a cup of butter, and each stick of butter is 1/2 cup of butter. So I'm going to need 2 sticks of butter. So I won't need to measure the butter because it's already measured for me. So the cookies have a total of 1 cup of sugar. I have 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. I got to pack it down really well so it's firm. When I put it into the bowl, I can tell that I packed it correctly because it holds the shape of the cup. So then the other 3/4 cups to make up the full cup of sugar are regular granulated sugar. Then I'm going to need 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring, and we're going to start mixing. So I'm going to need 2 eggs, so I'm going to go ahead and crack those into a small bowl, just making sure that I have no shells in them. So they're ready when I need to add the eggs to the cookie mixture. So the butter is cold from the refrigerator and it's firm, so I'm going to start on a very low speed. So I'm going to increase my speed a little bit. And I'm going to keep mixing this until it's all creamed together. So when I get it most of the way creamed, I'm going to stop and I'm going to add 1 of the eggs and mix that in. Once it's mixed in, I'll add the second egg. Again, I got to start slow so I allow time for the egg to get absorbed, and then I can speed up the mixer. So now I need to mix in my dry ingredients. I'm just going to mix it in a little bit at a time, stir it, add a little bit more. Also, I'm trying to make sure that I scrape the sides just a little bit and get the flour that ends up on the sides into the cookie dough. So try not to eat the raw cookie dough. I know you're tempted to do that. It contains egg. Raw egg can contain salmonella. So try to avoid doing that. The cookies will be done soon. So I'm using a bowl scraper here to get all the flour in. So I have my chocolate chips. I'm going to pour them in here. And then I'm going to mix them in, kind of folding them in. I don't want to smash them, and I want to make sure that they're even throughout the cookie dough so that each cookie gets about the same amount of chocolate chips. Nuts are optional. If you have a nut allergy, you probably don't want to add nuts. I know people that have a walnut allergy, so I'm using pecans instead of the traditional walnuts. So we're going to get all these mixed in. And you could also divide your cookie dough in half, do one with nuts and one without the nuts. You could also use M&Ms instead of chocolate chips if you wanted M&M chocolate chip cookies. So once I've got my dough done, I've moved it from the big mixing bowl into a smaller bowl. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes before I make my cookies. That will make sure that the cookies form correctly and are moist in the middle and they don't spread out too much. So now I've got my cookie dough out of the refrigerator. During that time, it gave me just enough time to clean the kitchen. And then I'm going to take my cookie scoop and use my bowl spreader, kind of even it out. And then I need to spread the cookies out. So I usually get a full-size cookie pound. I'm going to do 3 by 4 cookies. So I'm going to make 3 rows of 4. Okay, because cookie doughs have a lot of butter in them, you do not want to spray down or grease the cookie sheet. Just put the scoops the cookie right on the cookie sheet. Also, you don't want to smash down the cookie dough. It will spread out as it cooks. So we're going to put this in the oven. It takes about 9 minutes. So my cookies are done. I'm going to take them out of the oven. So the biggest mistake when making cookies is to overcook them. They're going to be super soft, but they'll continue to cook even when you take them off the tray because they are hot. What I'm looking for to see if they're done is that they're spread out, which you can see that they are, and that there's a little brown around the edges. So what I want to do is I want to get my spatula and I'm going to put them onto the rack. Now they are going to be super soft, so I have to do it carefully. I'm going to put them onto the rack and I'm going to let them cool. So once your cookies are on the rack, you're going to let them cool for about 15 minutes. They should be firm by then. If you would like to make a second batch, you can. You'll probably have plenty of cookie dough. You can also freeze your cookie dough in a Ziploc freezer bag. and you can make them at another time. If you're freezing them, kind of lay the dough flat in the bag, and they'll freeze for about a month or so.